Hey there, my name's Colin and welcome to Helluva UX, the series where I shit on other people's designs because apparently I'm just a grumpy old man. In this episode, I'm mostly complaining about accessibility issues with this site. There's some things I kind of like, but I have some things I really don't like, and so I thought this would make a decent episode talking about different accessibility options and maybe some ways that this site could be improved versus my normal rants about things I don't like. First off is the custom cursor. Now, I like the idea of custom cursors, and I've seen them done before. Sometimes they're done really well, sometimes they're not. It kind of depends. This one doesn't really seem to add too much to the website. You already kind of have hover states. This turns from transparent to white. So really having a custom cursor isn't that beneficial, especially when you compare it to other websites like Phantom.land. This is a design agency who kind of has like this cloud bubble effect. And when you hover over stuff, there's a little bit of like a custom gloopy cursor that's supposed to follow you around, and then when you hover over stuff it like kind of sticks to the different buttons that you have. So stuff like this is a much better use of like a custom cursor where you still keep the default cursor. I'm on Windows and I have my cursor set to be black with a white outline, and by switching it over to this custom dot, as I'm moving around the site I kind of lose it a little bit, especially with this nice background video which I really like, and I think it adds a lot to the homepage, but the cursor gets lost. There's been a few times now where I've gotten lost where I'm at, and I kind of like have to shake it around a bunch trying to figure out where that dot went off to. So it definitely blends in with the background way too much, and I don't think it really adds anything to the site. So I definitely would drop that. You could probably keep the little circle, but have the native cursor and have the circle kind of stick to it. The other big issue I have is just the overall accessibility of the site. If we look at web.dev, it fails all accessibility testing. There's different meta tags that are in there that's preventing it from actually being able to run the full suite of tests. But when we jump into one of the actual pages, such as the apartments page, this text is really hard to read. I don't have any sort of vision issues, but even I find this like light gray text on a white background really hard to see, and I can just look at this and tell that this text is not passing any accessibility testing. Another kind of nitpicky thing is the dot gets lost in the images again, so more complaints about the custom cursor. And some of this text kind of fades into the background, so it's not accessible. A few things that could be done to help increase the accessibility on this page is, first off, making this text darker and using more of layout, font weight, and the font size to help structure the text hierarchy rather than trying to use different shades of black to help structure this content. Also, these hover states, I can tell that this is clickable because, first off, the site has trained me that when the dot expands it means it's clickable, but also there's a little bit of movement which definitely helps. But I probably would have made this whole background for this line item here, I would have made the whole thing maybe a little bit darker, something like this light gray here. Make it feel clickable, make it feel like a big button, not just a slight movement and then the custom cursor kind of changes. Now, I think you can still design pretty nice websites that are accessible. For example, here's just something I threw together. I am by no means a graphic designer, but when I am forced to design something or lay it out, I know the defaults, the basics of providing text that is accessible, at least the 4:1 contrast ratio accessible, working with primary colors that are accessible, along with providing different shades of gray. This text here is passing at least the 4:1 contrast ratio accessibility for this light gray background. It's not that hard to use font weights and font sizes and different spacing techniques in order to still provide a decent hierarchy within your content, but then also still make sure that whatever you're producing is accessible. That pretty much wraps up the major complaints I have. Other minor little features that could change would be on these pages where there's the white background, having this maybe go to dark and having the text be white. This logo could have filled in. I don't know if it's within the brand style guides to have a filled in logo or if it has to be this outline style, but that would have been a nice addition to this homepage logo here, is having the text fill in, whether it just goes from transparent to filled or there's some sort of movement or animation to it. It doesn't really matter, but just having something like that, more than just the dot expanding, to show me that, hey, this is clickable. We've spent a long time and people put in a lot of thought into designing these systems, like the basic cursor of having a button that changes from normal cursor to the pointer, and the pointer tells pretty much any user that's used in computer that, hey, this is clickable and you can go somewhere. But now you're trying to reteach people. This is a good example where these are clearly clickable. The cursor changes and you have a bunch of custom effects, where on this site you're trying to retrain the user that this dot expanding means clickable. And not everyone gets it. Depends what your age group is and the target audience for a website. There's certain things that are just kind of the defaults, and they're defaults for a reason. And I don't think it's the best idea to move away from some of these defaults. But, that's just like my opinion, man. And feel free to disagree with me and tell me I'm stupid in the comment section below.